welcome back to my channel. My name's Selena if you're new and you've just found me, and today we're in the kitchen because I want to show you I've got some water on the boil there. We are going to be making 3 different meals that you can make at home using pantry staple ingredients. Now I understand, before you come at me in the comments, everyone's pantry will probably have different staple ingredients, and that is fine. I'm going to show you 3 things that we make when we need to come up with something out of what we've already got, and things that I feel like are probably somewhat common for most people. Apologies if you feel like this is definitely not what you have as pantry staples. This is what I have as pantry staples, and it's what a lot of people that I personally know would have as pantry staples. So 3 different dishes. They're affordable to make and they are pretty tasty, to be honest. So behind me, as I just showed you, I've got some water in a pot. I'm going to cook a bag of pasta because the first dish I want to make today is a sausage style casserole. It's an Italian flavored dish. It is not authentic Italian, but it's got Italian flavors in it, so it's really yummy. It is made with basic vegetables, and the thing is, whatever you've got available, that's what I use in this. So I grow a lot of my vegetables here. If you've been following for a while, you would know that. But if you don't grow your own vegetables, and a pantry staple is not fresh vegetables for you, but you have frozen vegetables or you have canned vegetables, you can substitute those for what I use as fresh today. And the other thing is, it's one of those dishes that you just use whatever you've got on hand, okay? The main flavors that you need to have is garlic and onion and some tomato because it is Italian. So sausage casserole, my family think this tastes a bit like Subway's Italian sandwich that they do, the Subway, restaurant chain, takeaway shop, whatever it is. They think it tastes like that. I think it's a bit more like cacciatore flavored, but yeah, you decide if you decide to make this what you think it tastes like. So what I've got here is I'm just dicing an onion. So I'm just rough dicing an onion and popping it in my pot or dish, whatever you want to call this, frying pan. To my onion, I've got some mushrooms in my fridge, so we're going to add mushrooms. I picked some carrots out of the garden this morning and I'll be adding carrots. I don't always add carrot. I add whatever I have available to me at the time of making it. That's why I call this a pantry staple dish. Okay. You're going to want some garlic. I use at least 2 cloves of garlic, but it's up to you. I've got a little bowl over here today to collect all of my compost waste. And I will be using 3 small cloves today because that's what I have. So I want to show you 3 dishes that you could make potentially tonight using just things you already had in your pantry, fridge and freezer. I've chosen ingredients that are pretty cheap, not the dearest of things, and things that I feel are fairly common for most people. So I'm just going to crush up my garlic. So as I said, I've got some carrots I grabbed out of the garden. It is pouring with rain outside at the moment, and it has been for a few days. So I've run out there and I've just grabbed whatever carrots I could because I didn't feel like becoming a soaking wet mess. And they are a little bit gnarly looking. If you're wanting to make this and you want to put carrot in it, I'd probably use 2 sort of medium to large size carrots. Give them a peel if you need to. That's up to you. It's your house. You do what you want in your own house. I'm peeling mine because I've only washed them once and they've still got like a little bit of dirt on them. You just want to cut these down to whatever shape and size you like. And again, add whatever vegetables you want if you want to make this. Zucchini is nice, and I have used zucchini a lot in the past. I'm not growing zucchini at the moment, although I have got some lovely little baby zucchinis have popped up from some seeds that I've been sowing over the last couple of weeks. But yeah, I don't have any fruit at the moment ready to, or vegetable I should say, ready to go into my cooking. So I'm just using what I've got, and I think I have some beans in my fridge. I may use some of those up. And also herbs, you want Italian flavoured herbs. So whatever herbs you might be growing or have been able to get your hands on, they will work well. I've got basil because that's what I literally ran outside and just grabbed and ran back in. I didn't get any oregano, although I should have, but I don't feel like going back outside. I am going to use dried mixed Italian herbs in this recipe, so it's not going to be lacking in anything like that. I've got some carrots, some mushrooms, onion and garlic in here. I'm going to put a little bit of olive oil in there and get that starting to very slowly saute. We just want some flavour to come out of these vegetables. While that's happening, I'm going to get my sausages organised. So my sausages, I've just got a tray here of 8 sausages, okay? Now I realise that what us Australians call a sausage and what other countries maybe call a sausage could be something different. So a sausage in Australia, and the sausage I'm referring to, is the kind that is raw. It is a raw meat in an edible casing that we usually cook by frying or grilling, popping it on a barbecue, something along those lines. I'm not referring to the sausage that is like just ground beef in its loose state, and I'm not referring to any sort of cured sausage that's sort of an already cooked, ready to eat style thing. So for this recipe, you're looking for the links of sausage that are raw in an edible casing that need to be cooked, okay? Mine are beef sausages, and they're just a thin beef sausage from a supermarket. And what I want to do is I'm just going to gently poach these until they're done because I want to take that casing off. So in a pot here, I'm going to put my sausages just as they are, raw, straight in there. I'm going to top this up with water just so that they are well and truly submerged, and then pop that on the stove and let it just cook away gently until my sausages are mostly cooked and the casing is slipping off. And I'll show you what that looks like as it sort of happens. Okay, so there you go. You can see I've got water in my pot with my sausages. I'm going to get that on my stove, get some heat under it so that they start to poach. What I've got is my water in the back there is actually boiling. So I'm going to get a little bit of salt put in that water, and I'm going to put my pasta straight in there and get that cooked. Now this is just like elbow macaroni, okay? But you can use whatever pasta you like. And I did notice that this particular brand does not take long. That does not take long to cook, so it's only about a 3 to 5 minutes it's going to take to cook that pasta. So I've gone and put my sausages in the back here on a back burner because I want to get my vegetables going over here. And I'm going to add just a little bit of olive oil to that. You use whatever olive oil, avocado oil, whatever oil you like. Let's get some heat under this, get that moving. So I've got some basil here, literally a handful, that I've grabbed straight out of the garden. All right, and I'm just going to give that a rough chop and set it aside. I'm also going to slice up some olives and set them aside as well because we want to add some olives to this and some basil. We will also be adding some tinned tomatoes and some tomato paste. So get those out, ready to go in. If you don't have pasta, you can serve this sausage mixture, I guess is what I would call it, on just some toast or even rice, okay? So it is one of those dishes that's pretty flexible in how you serve it. I'm going to be making it with the pasta and mixing it together, topping it with some cheese so that I can bake it tomorrow night for our dinner. And that's the other thing, is you can make this in advance and have it sitting in your fridge and just pop it in the oven. I have served this dish without baking it as well, where I have just put it on the plate alongside the carbohydrate of choice. Probably pasta would be my most popular one of those when it comes to this particular dish, and just served it like that. There's my basil. I'm going to get some olives out of this, and I'm just slicing these up. My olives and my basil are ready to go in once we get to that stage. All right, my pasta's ready. I've given that a drain and a good rinse, and that's just sitting in its colander over its pot there to continue draining until we're ready to assemble this dish. So I'm just going to set that aside over here. My vegetables are sauteing nicely. I'm going to give them another stir. And keep an eye on your sausages. You don't want those sausages boiling rapidly. You just want them slowly simmering away. What we're trying to do is just poach the meat mostly cooked, and then we actually want the skins to just slip off. If you don't want to do the poaching of the sausages step, by all means, go ahead, grill your sausages on a barbecue plate, on a barbecue, till they are cooked, and then you can use them as like cooked barbecue sausages. That is another thing. If you're wanting to make this dish with leftover sausages that you already had for some other thing, and you've got these cold sausages in the fridge, just go ahead and cut them up and they will be fine to use as well. Okay, you can see my sausages have started to change colour a little bit. They're not quite as pink. They're going sort of a greyish brown colour. That's how you know they're starting to cook. I'm pretty happy with where the rest of this is looking, how cooked it's looking. So what I want to do is add the rest of the ingredients to get this to be a saucy dish. So what you want to add now, all right, so when you're happy with the level of cooked your onion, garlic and whatever vegetables you've got, you want to add a couple of heaped sort of tablespoons or whatever size spoon you like to this. Give that a quick cook down. Tomato paste does better if it's got a little bit of cooking done to it, otherwise it can have a real raw flavour. It's hard to describe, but this is just something I always do when I add tomato paste to something, is I give it a bit of a cook down before I add the other ingredients. To that, I'm going to add 2 tins of a diced tomato, canned tomatoes if you've got your own homegrown, home-canned tomatoes. And I also want to add a whole can of water. So I'm going to fill one of these, do the rinse thing, and then add that as well. That way you get all the tomato out of your tins. Turn your heat down low. You want this to just simmer gently. We want the flavours to just sort of marry together. Okay, to that I'm going to add some mixed Italian style herbs, and I'm adding three good pinches of that. I'm going to add the olives and the basil. Give that a good stir. Make sure your heat is on low because we don't want this bubbling over everywhere. My sausages are starting to sort of boil in the background. I'm just going to turn those down a little bit further because I don't want them to be boiling rapidly. Hit this with some salt and pepper. And I'm going to add 2 good pinches of sea salt and just some cracked pepper. If you're one of those people who likes to add garlic powder and onion powder to everything, by all means add some of that. Add some other Italian style seasoning. All right, you can see my sausages over the back there are happy swimming in their little pot of water. I just want to see, you know that you can take them out when you know that you're going to be able to get the casings off. Okay, so you can just pierce that with a knife, and if they start to fold back, that's when they're ready. They also need to be firm enough to hold their shape. All right. So my sauce is simmering nicely and gently over in the background there. Now the purpose of how long do you want to simmer it for is really until any root vegetables, so in this case carrots, are just tender enough to eat. So if you're going to turn yours into a baked casserole style dish like I am today, they don't need to be quite as cooked as if you wanted to serve it straight as it is. Because I am baking mine, it's obviously going to have a second cook in the oven. So my sausages are boiled and they've cooled slightly. Now you just need to peel off their skin, and if you just grab a fork or a knife, you should be able to peel off the skin. Okay, you've just got to get it started, and then usually you can peel it off. The brand of sausage often has a lot to do with how easily the skins come off as well. I will say that I've noticed that over the years. And the reason we're peeling the skin off is because the sausage skin will come off when we put these into the tomato base, and then it's kind of pretty unappealing to eat. So get your skins off your sausages. This one is being really stubborn. I've never had so much trouble getting the skins off, to be honest. Okay, that is the last one. And when I do cut my sausages, I like to just cut them on an angle like that, okay? Just because that's how I like them to look. Just try and keep them even. Now these are pre-cooked, as you know. So this is no longer needing to be cooked in the sauce. It's more just going to marry in with the flavours of the sauce. So pop them straight into the tomato sauce that is cooking on behind us. And all we're doing is heating these sausages through and just getting some of that tomato flavour into them, and then that is ready to serve if you're wanting to serve it without putting it as a bake. All I'm going to do is get these mixed through and then pull it off so that I can assemble this dish, and it will be done ready to go into the oven. So our sauce is done. I've got a pan here that I've just oiled with a little bit of olive oil. I've got my pasta here, which is well drained, and I'm simply going to combine all of this together. My pasta is a little stuck together, but otherwise it's good. All right, just mix together, and I'm going to top with some cheese, and then that would be ready to go into the oven. Because I will be eating this one tomorrow night, I'm going to top it with cheese, let it cool down a bit, and pop it in my fridge. Then tomorrow night, I'll just pop that straight in the oven. So I'm just going to top my bake here with some cheese. This is just tasty cheese. Again, optional. You can serve this as it was, just with the pasta on the side. All right, that's ready to either go into the oven or the fridge. I'm going to set it aside. Let mine cool for a little bit more before I put it in the fridge. The next dish I want to get started on is smoky baked beans. Now, smoky baked beans might seem like of no interest. Okay, and if you've only ever had baked beans from a can, I could understand why. We generally, as a family, have baked beans about once a week as a meal for dinner. We serve it alongside things like delicious crunchy sourdough bread, or I'll make some garlic bread and put it on that. Smoky baked beans, they're just so much better than the just regular old tinned beans. So I'm going to get started on showing you how to make those smoky baked beans. I'm going to serve it with some sourdough, and that will be another meal that you can make if you want to, using some pantry staple ingredients. It's really delicious. Even my young children enjoy this, and they will not touch beans. Okay, they don't like baked beans out of the tin, and they're not a fan of beans just in general, other than fresh out of the garden, freshly picked, that they are harvesting and eating as they go. So I've won my own children over with this one. I think you could probably too if you wanted to give it a try. It's really delicious, and we're going to get stuck into that one straight away. So my baked beans are really simple, and again, we're using what we have on hand to make them. So I'm going to use an onion and garlic. That's the base of most dishes anyway. This one is also going to use some tinned tomatoes and some tinned beans. If you have bacon and you want to add bacon to the onions at the beginning, by all means do that. I don't have any bacon on me, and I'm not going anywhere to get any. We have had a bit of weather where I live, so I'm just going to stay at home and make these dishes using what I already have on hand, which is the point of the video, to show you that you don't have to run to the shop if you're missing one or two little things. You can use tinned baked beans that you've already got for this recipe, the kind that are ready to serve, or you can just use canned beans, which I'm going to use today. And my beans are actually ones that I've grown and canned here, so they're even more homemade, I guess. But you can just use any old tin of beans, and you can use whatever sort of beans you like the most as well. I find that if I use the little white beans, they tend to get more mushy, and that is better for the kids that don't want to be recognising they have beans in their dinner. But for people who want to recognise it, I find the little black beans seem to do better at holding their shape together. So just a little tip there in case you needed that. I've got 2 cloves of garlic here. Again, garlic, oh actually I've got 3. I've got 3 cloves of garlic. Crush that up into your pot with your onions. We're going to put some spices in there, some sauces in there, and that is going to be it. This is a dish that I like to cook on the nights where I really just can't be bothered and I don't have anything in the freezer ready to go. This one is really economical, and that's actually why we started doing baked beans for dinner one night a week. It was because we all actually enjoyed eating them. We find them quite yummy. But on top of that, it's a really cheap meal to put together, and you can use up leftover old bread and things like that as toast, so that you don't even have to, you know, have special fancy bread or anything like that. I have got some sourdough in my fridge. I'm going to use that today to serve alongside my baked beans. We also enjoy having these in the fridge, ready to go for breakfasts as well. So all you need to do, if you want to pre-make a pot of these baked beans and have them ready to go for breakfasts, have some toast available, ready to be toasted, and just keep your baked beans in a container in your fridge. Scoop out the amount that you want, reheat them either on the stove or in the microwave, pop them on your toast, and that is a really delicious breakfast. And even fry a couple of eggs, put them alongside your baked beans on toast. I'm going to add a couple of mushrooms to mine simply because I have some mushrooms. I don't always add mushrooms. The base of the baked beans is the onion and the garlic and the beans, and then the sauce with that. So if you want to add zucchini, if you want to add mushrooms, if you want to add some herbs, by all means go ahead and do that as well. I've just sliced my mushrooms, nothing fancy, straight into your pot. This is a 4-litre Dutch oven that I'm using. So yeah, you don't even need a huge pot for this one. Okay, so I'm going to put that on the stove with a little bit of olive oil, get them sauteing, get my beans out. So I've got my onions, garlic, and some of those mushrooms in here. The pot is on. That is going to heat up and get going for us. I also went into the pantry. I grabbed a couple cans of my beans that I canned myself. If you're growing them yourself, they're just dried beans. If you're buying them, they're just dried beans. So either way, whether you grew them or you purchased them, I've just canned them in my pressure canner, which I think I've done a video on. If not, I'll be doing some more soon because that's the last of my canned beans, and I'll show you that. I also found what I was trying to describe earlier, some baked beans in tomato sauce. That's what they're called. I don't normally have these in my pantry, so I'm not sure how long they've even been in there, but we're going to add them. Normally I would use 2 cans of beans to this quantity, okay? Today, because I found this lot, I'm going to chuck them in as well. And again, if you just want to use the can of baked beans that you're used to maybe buying, or you maybe already have, by all means use that too. You don't have to use just plain beans, okay? You can use the canned in tomato sauce, ready to heat and eat style, which is what I was trying to say earlier, but I sometimes get muddled up with my words, all right? Feel free not to attack me in a comment section about the fact that sometimes I muddle up my words. Okay, my beans don't need to be drained because they have completely filled, and I like it when we use them like this. The can of beans is very saucy. I add tomatoes to these as well, so you're going to need some tins of tomato. So mine will be vegetarian today, but if you're wanting to add bacon, you would add it now and get that frying off and letting some of that smoky bacon flavour get in with your onions, your garlic, and in this case, mushrooms. They are just in some olive oil frying away. I'm going to give that a stir and check on those. My onions and my garlic are getting some lovely colour in the pot there. I'm just going to now add some of these other ingredients. Now, the other ingredients I'm adding today is I have a little bit of red wine vinegar. If you don't have red wine vinegar, you don't need to add it, okay? If you have these things in your pantry too, go ahead, add just a little splash, okay? I don't even think there was a tablespoon in there. We want to add some smoked paprika. So smoked paprika, the vinegar's going in my throat. The smoked paprika is what's going to give your baked beans the smoky flavour. So we do want to add smoked paprika. If you don't have smoked paprika and you only have regular sweet paprika, you can add that. It's just not going to be smoky baked beans if you haven't got bacon in there to give it some smoky flavour. So I'm going to add 2 good heaped spoons of smoked paprika to my garlic onion mixture. I'm going to add some Worcestershire sauce. Again, if you don't have Worcestershire sauce, you don't need to buy it. This just gives it a little bit of flavour. You can leave it out. And that's the other thing I love about these beans, is that sometimes they are completely different to the last time I made them based on what is left in the pantry at the time. I'm adding my beans, 2 full cans of beans, and then I'm going to actually add the third because I'm going to add those saucy ones as well. If you want to add herbs, go ahead, add herbs. I've added Italian dried herbs to this and it's delicious. I've added fresh herbs out of the garden, also delicious. You can make these more Mexican flavoured if you like by adding a little bit of cumin, a little bit of coriander, and you'll have more Mexican flair to it. You can make them a little bit more Italian by adding basil and adding a little bit of oregano and a little bit more tomato than I'll add today. That will give you a lovely Italian style baked bean, or flavoured, I guess I should say. All right, to that I'm going to add some tomato. I normally only add 1 can of tomatoes. I'm going to add 1 and then sort of have a look, see if I'm happy with it. If I feel like it needs another can of tomatoes, I will add a second. How do you tell that yourself at home if you choose to make this is purely based on how thick you like your baked beans to be. If you want them to be runnier, then you can add a second can of tomatoes. If you want them to be thicker, keep it at 1. These smell delicious already. They smell smoky. There's a little bit of sweetness there in that Worcestershire sauce. All right. So there is our baked beans. All right. If it wasn't pouring down outside, I would run outside and grab a little bit of parsley to add to this, but it is pouring, so I'm not going out there now. Don't forget to add a little bit of salt and pepper. I did forget, so I'm going to do that now. A good couple of pinches of salt. and some cracked black pepper. Turn that heat down really low. We want them to simmer just super gently. I don't actually want all of my beans broken up into mush. If you do want them broken up and to be mushy, then just let it cook for a bit longer. That is technically ready to serve because nothing in there needs to cook for any longer. I just want the flavours to sort of infuse into each other just a little bit more, give those beans some flavour. So I'm going to leave that on really, really low, keep an eye on it, and then turn it off when I'm happy with the thickness, and I'll have a taste to make sure I'm happy with the seasoning and the flavouring. So I'm happy with my baked beans. They can just sit there and cool down a little before I show you what they look like finished. The last dish I want to make today, that is pantry stable. So, you know, things that we've just got lying around in our pantry most of the time. And it's sweet and sour chicken, okay? It's not authentic Chinese. Don't come at me in the comments about not being authentic Chinese. No, I'm not in China. I am not Chinese, and I have never had authentic Chinese from China. This is sweet and sour chicken as Australians would be familiar with it, and it usually comes in some kind of jar. The brand Canton comes to mind, and it is often quite a neon colour. Okay, that is the sweet and sour chicken that I am trying to replicate with this recipe. So this is one that, okay, we're going to use some rice. We're going to serve this with rice. I feel like we've always got rice. Now the other thing is I'm going to be using frozen chicken nuggets. No, I don't standardly have frozen chicken nuggets all the time in my freezer, but my kids do enjoy having chicken nuggets. Quite often I'll make sweet and sour chicken this exact same way, but instead of using frozen chicken nuggets, I'll make the chicken nuggets myself using chicken breast and a tempura batter. I made a lemon chicken recipe and I popped that video up and I showed you how I make those chicken nuggets in that. If you'd like to see me do that, by all means, go and see that video for that chicken nugget component. I feel like you could use anything. You can just grill some chicken, okay? You could poach some chicken. You could use some rotisserie chicken if that's what you want to do too, okay? So this is, again, adapt it to what you've got. I currently have frozen chicken nuggets, so I'm going to pop some of those in the air fryer. I'm only going to cook enough to show you the finished dish, but this will serve a family of 4 or 5 for the amount of sauce that I'm going to make, okay? Okay, so my nuggets are in the air fryer. I will add, if you are wanting to use nuggets or sort of coated chicken for this, try and get some that have like the batter, so the tempura batter ones, rather than your crumbed tenders or your crumbed nuggets. They won't be as nice in the sauce, okay? In a saucepan, to make the sauce, I'm going to add all the ingredients to the saucepan. One of those dishes that's super easy to throw together, and it really does just use regular ingredients, okay? I've got 1 onion in there. I've got a couple of carrots here. If you wanted to use some of the pickled carrots, they go really nicely in this as well. You can use pickled onion, you can use pickled carrots. Again, this is to replace the jarred Canton style sweet and sour sauce, okay? I like to cut my vegetables for this on a bit of an angle, just for the look. All right, so when I say on an angle, like that, okay? Straight in the pot. And I have some capsicum, so I'm going to use half a capsicum as well. pulling out the seeds and the membrane and just slicing your capsicum. Feel like that's the vegetables that we have to have for this sauce. Okay, to that we want a tin of pineapple, including the juice. Now I would like pineapple pieces. Because I don't have pineapple pieces on me, I've only got the rings, I'm just going to tip the whole can of juice straight onto my vegetables, and then I'll just chop my pineapple rings up into the pieces that I would have otherwise bought. So this can of pineapple is the can I got from Costco, and if you saw that video, there's a little bit more pineapple in here than in sort of a standard 400 gram can, because this is $5.67. So you can use just the standard sort of 400 gram-ish size can of pineapple, unless you've also got these larger cans. But it doesn't require the extra large sort of 800 gram tin. Okay, pineapple and vegetables and pineapple juice all in there. To this, the other ingredients is just some tomato sauce, also known as ketchup, okay? So not tomato sauce that's just tomato puree. We want the one that has the sugar and things like that in it. So the ketchup style tomato sauce, and you want about 1 cup of tomato sauce. Okay, into your pot. I want about a tablespoon of soy sauce. Now, vinegar, we need to add some vinegar and we need to add some sugar. This will be determined by how sour it tastes and also how sweet it tastes when we go to taste it. So to begin with, I add about sort of 1/4 cup of vinegar. I'm using apple cider vinegar today. Use whatever vinegar you like, whatever vinegar you have. And then about equal, so 1/4 cup of vinegar and about 1/4 cup of sugar. Again, we need to taste this once these things have married together so that we know if it needs a little more sweetness or if it needs a little more sourness, which comes from our vinegar, okay? So just to begin with, add about 1/4 cup of vinegar and 1/4 cup of sugar. Give that a stir. Okay, you want to then add a little bit of water so that there's a better ratio of vegetable to sauce. Okay, so to this, I'm going to add about 1 cup of water, which was equal to the amount of tomato sauce that I added. All right, so I've added a cup of water. Give it a stir, get all your ingredients well combined before we put it on the heat. Okay, just like that. All right, I'm going to put this on the stove. I've kept my vinegar and my sugar out. I may well need to add some more of either or both of those once we taste this. Okay, I'm going to get some heat under that. I want it on a medium to low heat. We are not boiling this to death. We just want to poach the vegetables so that they incorporate some flavour into the sauce and also get that sugar dissolved well and all those ingredients married together nicely. While that's happening and our air fryer is cooking our nuggets, I'm going to get some rice made. So I've made rice in other videos before, and I will run through it again for anyone who missed it. So I've got my rice, I got one of those big bags from Costco. I think it was about a 15 kilo bag or something along those lines. Maybe it was 10 kilos, I don't know. I'd have to go back and check the video. And I put it in these food safe buckets. That's where I store my rice. I was asked in a recent video, which buckets are they? So these are the buckets from Bunnings. This particular size that held the rice that I bought from Bunnings is the 11 litre with the lid, okay? And you do need to make sure you push that lid down securely, otherwise it's actually not airtight and then you can get bugs and things in your rice. When I store my flour, I store my flour in the larger bucket, which is the 20-litre bucket. So just for information for anyone wanting to know that, my rice lives in the 11-litre bucket from Bunnings. Bunnings is like our sort of national chain of hardware store. So with this rice today, I'm going to be using this particular cup here. And when I make rice, whatever cup I use to measure my dry ingredients, I use that for my wet ingredients, okay? In my pot, I'm going to do 2 of those cups of rice. Feel free to wash your rice if you would like to. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. That is up to you entirely whether you wash your rice. If you do wash your rice, drain it well so that you don't end up with water as well as your rice in the pot when you go to measure out this water. So for the water, what I want to do is add an extra cup than what I've got. So I've measured 2 cups here. I'm going to do 3 cups of the water. Sometimes I only do an extra about a half, but I found this particular brand of rice, which again, I'd have to check the video as to what brand I even bought, but this particular brand, it does need a little bit more water. So I do 3 cups of water to my 2 cups of rice and just put them all in the pot together. So I've got my 3 cups of water, my 2 cups of rice. That's ready to go on the stove. I'm going to cook this via the absorption method, which means I am going to get this up to a boil and then turn my heat off. I will have a tight fitting lid on my rice and I will let that sit there for at least 10 minutes or until it's just done. When my rice is done, there won't be any water in the bottom of my pot and the rice will be fluffy, I guess, in texture, and the grain won't have any hard bits in the middle when you chew it. So to get a really tight fitting lid on my pot, I like to put a piece of baking paper or alfoil between the pot and the lid. I find it does a better job at sealing in the steam, which is what we're using to actually cook the rice. So I'm going to put this on, get that boiling. All right, so there's the sweet and sour sauce. It is just coming up to a simmer slowly, which is exactly how I want it to be. Over here, my rice has started to boil, as you can see. So I'm going to put some foil and a lid on this and turn the heat off and let that just do its thing for the next 10 minutes. I'm going to give my sweet and sour sauce a taste, and this is a necessary part of the process. You do need to taste it because you need to know, is it sweet enough, is it sour enough, does it need something else? Those are the base ingredients. From there we need to adjust as our taste buds tell us. That's perfect. So I don't need to adjust that at all. That may be perfect because I used that larger tin of pineapple too, so keep that in mind. I will make sure all the recipes for today are down in the description box below. They'll be at the very bottom. I usually only give you the ingredient list, and that is purely because that description box is not big enough for me to add every single recipe. But yeah, when it comes to your sweet and sour sauce, give it a taste. Make sure you're happy that the flavor is balanced, that you've got sweetness there, you've got sourness there. And if you want, I mean, you can add a little bit of onion powder or garlic powder if that's something that you're wanting to do. I'm not going to. This is perfect as it is. What I need that to do is just cook my carrot and onion just a little bit more, okay? Because they're still crunchy. I want them to be just a little bit softer. I don't want them to be too soft though. Then we're just gonna thicken that up with a little bit of a corn flour slurry and it's ready to be served. So I've got a couple of pieces of sourdough in my toaster, and while my sweet and sour is on the stove, just softening those vegetables for me. I thought I'll plate up some of those baked beans. So there we go, still steaming hot. They smell really smoky and delicious. To finish off my baked beans, I usually put a couple of sprinkle of herbs, fresh herbs on top. I serve it with some sourdough or other crusty bread usually. I've got a little bit of olive oil here, and I'm just going to give that a quick drizz of olive oil because I do love olive oil. There we go. There is our baked beans. So I've checked on my sweet and sour sauce and it's just a little runny, okay? Now that's going to be determined by you. If you want your sauce a little thinner, then by all means just leave it as it is. If you feel like it could use a little bit of thickening, and mine honestly doesn't need much, just a little, what we need to do is add some corn flour slurry to it. Now corn flour slurry is simply corn flour or cornstarch, depending on where you're from in the world, and water. And you just mix a little bit together, and I've just got some here. And I've got a teaspoon of corn flour and about a tablespoon of water, okay? You want it to be kind of looking like milk. Well and truly mixed together. You need your mixture or your sauce, whatever you're wanting to thicken with your corn flour, needs to be already boiling, okay? And you need to be able to stir it as you go. And we're just going to stir in just a little bit of that. Give it a little bit of time, it won't take long, and it'll start to thicken up the liquid in there. Things that have been thickened with corn flour don't tend to do so well in the freezer, just so that you know, do this as a last sort of stage thing when you're ready to serve it. Alternatively, you can let this cook down for longer and it will reduce in the liquid volume and it will become thicker naturally that way as well. So until you're ready, or until you're ready to serve, and also when you're happy with the level of thickness that your sauce is, now that's ready to be served. So all we're really waiting on is that rice. Our nuggets are ready. The other thing I'll mention, if you are wanting to use this sweet and sour as something that you're then going to have as leftovers, try not to have your nuggets covered in the sauce until you're ready to eat them. Whether they're the bought frozen variety that I'm using today, or whether you're making your own nuggets, if they have a batter on them and you go and add liquid to it in the form of a sauce, it's going to make your batter sort of smushy and not very nice. So don't add the sauce to your nuggets until you're ready to serve. But yeah, there we go. So I'm really happy with that. It looks good. It smells really yummy. It smells like the Chinese takeaway that I'm used to. And yeah, so now all I'm doing is waiting for my rice. I'm going to plate this up and show you these 3 dishes that we've come up with out of our pantry today and our fridge and freezer, using just sort of standard ingredients that most people probably have on hand. All right, I'm just going to serve up my sweet and sour and show you how I do that, okay? My rice is fully cooked. It's lovely and fluffy, as you can see, and well separated. And for the sweet and sour, I just put the rice in, the pre-cooked nuggets of whatever you like, and then the sauce on top. Just like that. So thank you so much for spending time with me today, and I want to say a huge thank you to all my new subscribers. The channel's been growing a lot recently, and I really appreciate every single one of you who chooses to spend some time with me, watching me and my channel. So really big thanks to you all. Here we go, some pantry staple meals, things that we just had in our pantry. We've got 3 dinners here ready to go. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please be mindful. I am a person too. When you do comment down below, I do read most of them. I don't often get time to reply, but be kind. Kindness goes a long way in this world. Yeah, so thanks for spending time with me. hope you did enjoy these recipes, and hopefully they've helped you come up with some ideas if you've got some pantry items that you need to use up as well. And have a fantastic week. I'll catch you next time. Bye. So there we go, smoky baked beans, and I've served it here with just a little bit of sourdough. As you can see there, we've got our sweet and sour style chicken nuggets with rice, and then that sausage Subway casserole or sausage Italian casserole, whatever you'd like to call it. There we go. I do want to add quickly, I forgot to mention, with the sweet and sour, if you want to make that into pork instead, by all means, go ahead and make yourself some pork nuggets by braising some pork, battering it, giving it a deep fry, and then adding that sauce, and you'll have the sweet and sour pork instead of the chicken. So have a fantastic week. I'm having this for lunch today, and I'll catch you next time.